straight into recording. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Tutayambi buddham saranam gacchami, Tutayambi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tutayambi sangham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi buddham saranam gacchami, Tatayambi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatayambi sangham saranam gacchami. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 Paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 Paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Through the positive potential I create by practicing the 6 Paramitas, may I soon attain enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May they be free from suffering and its causes. May they never be parted from their happiness beyond suffering. May they abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment to the near, and aversion from the far. I shall cause this. Great compassionate Buddha, please inspire me to be able to do so. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every types of offerings, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all of my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in all the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until cyclic existence ends, and turn the wheel of Dharma for all sentient beings. I dedicate the virtues of myself and others to the great enlightenment. However innumerable all sentient beings are, I vow to save them all. However inexhaustible my delusions are, I vow to extinguish them all. However immeasurable the Dharma teachings are, I vow to master them all. However endless the Buddha's way is, I vow to follow it completely. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. Tayata Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Soha. So I hope you're nice and relaxed. Apart from obviously absorbing our mind, which is the main reason we do the chanting, it's absorbing the mind with the teachings and these virtuous aspirations and so forth. I'd like to say that the chanting is kind of, it's like if you do physical exercise, then you stretch before you do it. The chanting is a little bit like that for the meditation practice. It's almost like a mental stretch. It's calming your mind down. At the same time, filling your mind with joy normally, unless you find it a pain in the butt to do chanting. I hope you don't. So, if ever you do, then look at that and convince yourself through logical reasoning to realize the goodness in it and realize the benefits of it. Okay, so now you can relax, take it easy, and calm your mind. Realize we're all related. During this class, maybe we have maybe a few people with 2 per camera, and then maybe you can realize we're all related. Doesn't matter where we are. Probably the majority of you are around Melbourne somewhere, or the country areas like us. And of course, Myanmar, Venerable Ashen. And good to see Sus again. I know you've been very busy over the holiday time. That's nice. Of course, Sus is from Denmark originally. And then, of course, Hanneke, originally from Holland, but in England. And so I can't see anyone else's faces. I know that we've got Sim there. It's from Malaysia originally. Of course, Mum and I are from Wales originally. We have Sri Lanka's represented by Nelon and Mahendra. And Sinsin, I know, is from Indonesia initially. So we have the world. And of course, you've got your Aussies with Leisha and Leanne, born here, generations here, and so forth. So maybe British background as well. And Karen as well, who hasn't got a camera on. But that's okay. So let's do the meditation now. Enjoy yourself in the meditation. Feel the nice vibes coming from your mind, but also from the other people that we're meditating with. It's really, even though we're doing it virtually on the computer, when we meditate with others, especially experienced practitioners, it's actually very good for us. And it tends to rub off on us. So now close your eyes and relax your body. Remember to not be slouching forward, but also not to be rigid, not to be upright like this too much. Place your tongue on the upper palate inside your mouth above your top teeth, and gently close your lips, breathing through your nose, in and out. Now bring your attention to your feet and release any tension from the feet. Of course, for the younger people, this is quite easy to do. Maybe for older people, we have the habit of being tense more throughout our lives. So pay attention to releasing the tension. If you don't have any attention in that area, that's fine. Just let it be as it is. Release the tension from the toes, the balls of the feet, the arches, the heels, the top of your feet, and around your ankles and Achilles tendons. From your lower leg, around the calf muscles and the shins. And now release the tension from around your knees and your upper leg, the hamstrings and the quad muscles. And from your midsection, your glute muscles, your hip flexors, and also your groin. Slowly working our way up the body, release the tension from your lower stomach, from on and just above your hips and your lower back. And now release the tension from further up your stomach and your sides and the center of your back. From your chest area underneath your arms and from your upper back. the lateral muscles on each side, and in between the shoulder blades and the spine on each side, you have the rhomboid muscles. We tend to carry a lot of stress in this area, so release the tension from these muscles. And from your upper trap muscles that run between the neck and the shoulders, as well as your shoulders. From your upper arms, biceps and triceps, your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, hands, fingers, and thumbs. Now bring your focus up to your neck and release any tension you may have at the front, sides, and back of your neck. From the back of your head, and the sides of your head around your ears and temples, and your face, around the cheekbones and cheeks. Make sure you're not clenching your jaw, your chin, your mouth, your nose, sinuses, eye sockets, and eyes. And make sure you're not frowning on your forehead. And finally, release the tension from the top of your head. And just now, just for a moment, Leisha, just make sure everybody's mic's off. That would be great. Thank you. Now bring your mind and your focus of your mind initially to the tip of your nose. Of course, the object of the meditation is our breathing, our breath, the feeling of the breath as we breathe in and out. As we breathe in, the air is quite cool at the back, on the back of your throat. And as it enters the lungs, they expand. And as you breathe out, the lungs compress. And the air passes your throat on the way out warmer than before. Breathing in, breathing out. That's all you have to do today, at this moment, is breathe. The breath is like the canvas for a painter. Without a canvas or a surface to paint on, there is no paint, no painting. Without the breath, there is no life. So in a way, we're focusing on the most important physical thing that we do. It also has the tendency to bring the mind inside the body. And as we're breathing in, breathing out, the air that we're breathing in and out is constantly on the move. So as we focus on it, we bring our mind to the present moment at all times. When your mind wanders from the breath, recognize it, be aware of it, and then conscientiously replace it back onto the breath. If you're having thoughts or feelings, don't attach to them. Don't cling to them, don't grasp at them. Don't try to forcefully push them away either, or deny them. Just let them go or come and go naturally by refocusing on your breath. And if your mind becomes dull and sleepy, and even sometimes that may feel nice, like you're really relaxed. But of course, this dull state of mind is not conducive to wisdom, which is the long-term goal of meditation practice. If you experience this dullness, then focus on your breath more brightly. In this way, refocusing on your breath is the antidote for both the distracted and agitated mind, as well as the dull mind. Don't be too hard on yourself, but also don't be lazy. In all aspects of the Buddha's path, we can use the phrase middle path. Sometimes you can say in between extremes, but actually it's beyond extremes. In this case, beyond the extremes of the agitated and distracted mind and the dull and sleepy mind. Now we will practice like this in silence for a few minutes. So now you can feel very pleased with yourself, remaining with the meditative equipoise or meditative mind. Now extend loving kindness to yourself. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. May you be peaceful. You're entitled to do this. We just have to make the causes. Fill yourself with so much loving kindness that it overflows. This loving kindness includes appreciation and gratefulness and honesty, non-violence, friendship, and so forth. It overflows now to include initially your relatives, family, loved ones, and friends. May they also be happy and free from suffering. And as you engage in this practice, really feel it. It's really happening. Now radiate this love and kindness also to those you regard as strangers. Maybe you know them a little or not at all. It could be those people at the local shop, or the market, or the petrol station, or just those in your neighborhood that you don't know. Extend this loving kindness out gradually further and further, now to include those you find difficult. Those people, for some reason, irritate you. Maybe so much so that you can regard them as enemies. May all of these people have happiness and the causes of happiness, and may they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be peaceful. May they be friendly. Extend this loving kindness out further still to include all of those living beings that live around you, those that live on the land, those that live in the waters, fly through the air, whether they're born from wombs or eggs or moisture or through transformation. May all of these living beings also be happy and free from suffering. Now extend and radiate this love and kindness out to all the living beings in your state or your county. And further and further and further, your whole country. And other countries. Initially those close to your country and also those that you're familiar with. And also those countries that you're not familiar with. Until loving kindness pervades the whole planet. And other planets. In the whole solar system. And other solar systems. In the whole galaxy. And other galaxies throughout this universe. And beyond just this universe, extend and radiate this love and kindness throughout infinite space. And just an extra point here is realize now that you are not separate from infinite space. Your true nature of your mind is empty of substance. Totally free and full of loving kindness and compassion and wisdom. Now be present here and now, and we will recite the dedication prayer. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of the Buddha, so that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings. May the precious body Chitta, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. And may the precious view of Shunyata, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So we can also welcome my friend Naresh from Nepal as well, who's joining us today, just recently. So I share with you, maybe some of you saw this. On Monday, I was fortunate enough to be able to give a Dharma talk for the Subhakti University near Delhi in India. I'll be doing this most months, about once a month. And so the talk I gave on Monday was on the essence and the purpose of chanting, as well as commentary on the whole of the Eightfold Path. Yeah, we had a really nice time. I think there was apparently over 1,000 people were participating at the time live. So that was really nice. It was really good. and it was live. It was live on YouTube. And so it was, you could say, put you on the spot, make sure you didn't make any mistakes.
Currently, I'm studying in Subari University.
I just noticed that I just noticed that we can, I think, go longer today as well. This seems to be happening sometimes. So we will go maybe an hour if allowed to. I'll try to fit in the first part of the lesson today, though, before the 40 minutes is up, just in case. And yeah, Zoom tends to be doing that now. They're being a little bit more generous to us, which is very nice, rather than cutting off after 40 minutes.
Studying in Subari University.
Okay, so as you know, we're talking about meditation. And the big subject is the Eightfold Path, of course, specifically talking about the concentration aspect in relation to meditation practice. But this also has included throughout the last couple of months the right understanding and the right intention, which is the wisdom aspect of the path. And so what we will do today, actually, I'll just reiterate a little bit, okay? And that is, the last couple of weeks, we've spoken about the 5 faults to be relinquished, such as, lethargy and so forth. And so anyway, and excitement, of course, of the mind. And you can have a look at the videos for the last few classes if you're not familiar with them, or if you weren't able to attend in those classes, then have a look at them on the Facebook page for, I think it's like the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd of January. And then last week we spoke about the 8 antidotes to be able to relinquish these 5 faults and 5 faults for a meditation practice. So today we will, today we'll talk about this known as the 9 states of concentration. We're able to go through these and traverse through these 9 states of concentration by applying the 8 antidotes to the 5 faults and relinquishing them. So 9 states of concentration. I don't know if some of you have studied this before. I was fortunate enough in the late 80s to attend the Dharma class in Sydney, and the Dalai Lama was here. And this was a subject he spoke about. And also I read thoroughly through his book, something about Tibetan Buddhism, and that was in the early 90s, I think. And this book was specifically about this. And so I have a little bit of experience in being able to know this and also teach this. So the first state is, number 1, is called setting the mind. Now, this is when we start to engage in the meditation practice. It doesn't matter whether you're a beginner or whether you're experienced, whether you have good meditations constantly or sometimes, whether your meditations are very distracted. It doesn't matter. We all start to look. We start at the starting point, basically, of where we're at here and now. So setting the mind is the first part. This is collecting the mind and placing it on the object of meditation. So, for instance, if before this class, maybe you were doing something else, maybe you're in the garden, maybe you're watching TV, maybe you're eating, maybe, and also during the chanting, we were chanting then. And then we started doing the meditation practice. At the start of that practice, you collected your mind. Initially, bringing the mind in, using the technique to calm the body, to bring the mind inside the body. And then eventually you were focusing on the feeling of your breath as you breathe in and out, the breathing process. This is collecting the mind, placing it onto the object. Now, of course, we can use other objects as well. We can utilize the breath as in a physical object, known as the form aspect of the 4 foundations of mindfulness practice, or the feeling, and this is a mental feeling, either pleasurable, unpleasant, or neutral. You can utilize that. You can go deep into the mind itself. And you can also focus on the mind objects. So the four foundations of mindfulness are forms, feelings, the mind, and feelings, by the way, can also be known as sensations. The mind and then the mind objects. This is known as Dharma, but not Dharma as in the Buddha's teachings as such. This is Dharma as in phenomena or things. In English, we tend to write the capital D when we're talking about the Buddhist teachings, or the path to the truth, or the truth itself. But when we're talking about phenomena, things, whether they be mental or physical or both, we normally write it as a small d, just to let you know, just to remind those that already know. And so we focus on rupa to begin with, or form, and then the feelings, then the mind objects, or dharma. Okay, and so we can focus on those. We can also focus on, there's 41 parts of the body, including the brain, including all of the other organs, including the liquids in the body, including the skin, and so forth. The Buddha set forth all of these in the Satipatthana Sutra, or the foundations of mindfulness sutra, or mindfulness sutra, sometimes known. And so we can pick one of these if we want. If we're attracted to one, then we can do that. Or if we're far along in our meditation practice, if we're very experienced, maybe we can pick one we don't like, and to help us to give up aversion and so forth. But generally, and I feel the best object of meditation is the breath, for many, many reasons, including some that I mentioned earlier, that it brings the mind in the body. It's also the most important physical thing we do. It's also impermanent, constantly changing. And so even though when we're focusing on the breath, we don't contemplate the impermanence or the unsatisfactory nature or the no self. We don't contemplate that at the time. That's for a different meditation. That's through practicing the vipassana, or penetrative insight meditation. But it's because it's like that, it always helps us to be in the moment. It's also said to be the meditation the Buddha utilized that moment of enlightenment in Bodh Gaya, all of those years ago, more than 2,600 years ago. And so I think maybe we should follow the great master, follow the Buddha's way. And of course, it's probably the most utilized method throughout the Buddhist practitioners, and even people of other traditions, even if they're not Buddhists, they can focus on the breath. Of course, what makes this Buddhist practice is when we supplement it, as mentioned in previous classes, with refuge in the Buddha, the teacher, refuge in the Dharma, the teachings, and refuge in the Sangha, the community of spiritual practitioners of Buddhists. Okay, so then also supplemented with the great compassionate wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all living beings, known as bodhicitta. Okay. We can also utilize mantras. As I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I spoke about a couple of mantras. So you can use your voice, and or even Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa, normally chant that 3 times. Maybe you can continue. If your mind is really quite distracted, maybe you can help yourself by chanting a little bit beforehand, and not so much lots of verses, but just on one thing to bring your mind inside the body. And there's many mantras that are used in the Vajrayana tradition, for instance. Most of them, obviously, I shouldn't say most of them, all of them actually help to bring the mind inside the body. There are some there for specific reasons to improve ourselves and to eventually perfect certain qualities, such as compassion and love and so forth. But they all really have the essence. They're inside the mind. Whenever we chant something, it's always inside the mind, really, that we're training. The mind is the chief, as I like to say. So we can utilize that. We can also utilize visualization, where you can visualize a Buddha, for instance, whether it's in front of you or in your head, or as the Vajrayana tradition does, as you get more experienced in the practice, you actually visualize yourself as the Buddha or the Bodhisattva, and so forth. So you can utilize the visualization as well. But in this case, we are using the breath. Okay, so we'll get back to that. So sorry, I digressed there for a moment. So the first part is setting the mind. That's collecting the mind and placing it on the object. You may have to do this every few seconds. That's life. That's okay. We have a distracted mind. Our mind wanders a lot because we have the tendency or the habitual tendencies that we've created throughout this life, previous lives, and since beginningless time. So actually, it may take a little while to undo these habits. So setting the mind, continually do that. The next stage, number 2, is continually setting. So these may sound very simple again, but putting them into practice consistently, this is the big challenge, I think. Especially in our lives, we have quite busy lives these days in the modern world. It's really important that we slow ourselves down sometimes. And when we're going to do this practice, that we let go of that busyness, specifically at that time. And hopefully this can help us to be more relaxed, more focused, more bright in our everyday life. So continually setting is prolonging the concentration on the object. So now we're at the state where we now prolong our focus on the breath in this instant, in this situation. Okay, so you're lengthening the time you're able to concentrate. It's much more previous than the previous state. Okay, so the initial one is setting the mind, then you are continually setting the mind. So every time the mind wanders, it goes back on the breath. It becomes a little bit more natural to do so. The number 3 is resetting. So this is when we immediately recognize distraction and then return to the object. So this isn't so much, you know how sometimes maybe when you're meditating, all of a sudden something pops into your mind that's happening in your life maybe, or something that's worrying you even, or something that you want to plan for. Then quite often you let yourself, it's almost like you're writing a movie in your mind. It's almost like you've got these images in your mind, you've got these words, you're telling yourself a story, and then you recognize and you go, oh, hang on a minute, back to the breath. Stop doing that. Okay, so now at the 3rd stage, you immediately recognize. So it's almost like stopping it at the first thought, or you've only had a few thoughts, and then you recognize it. That phrase is used in Zen Buddhism a lot, and that is Dhyana Buddhism, and that is the stop the mind at the first thought. So you may have a thought of something, but don't add to it. Don't start to tell yourself stories. Don't cling to all of the memories or plans for the future. You just stop it at the first thought, as close to that as you can. And so this is the 3rd stage. The 3rd state, resetting, immediately recognizing distraction and returning immediately to the object. Remember the 3 aspects of mind that I've mentioned many times. We are mindfulness of the object. Now, there's no judging involved here. There's no bias involved here. You're just mindful. It's like just observing the object of meditation, the breath. But when the mind wanders, you become aware of that. Once again, no judging, no discrimination. You just are aware your mind has become agitated or dull. And then you conscientiously refocus onto the breath. There's 3 aspects: mindfulness, awareness, conscientiousness. Very important. This is like the process of meditation is constantly using these 3, especially through the beginning and the intermediate stages. Number 4 is increased setting. So I will remind you again, the first one, setting the mind, next one, continually setting, the next one, resetting. Now it's increased setting. Now this is the stage where we are collecting the mind from concentrating on the gross aspects of the breath in this case. And you're focusing more so on the subtle aspects of the breath. So the breath now becomes very subtle. When you experience this state, it becomes very, very subtle. It almost feels like you're not breathing sometimes. I've heard people say that in the past. So you're collecting the mind from concentrating on the gross aspects of the object and setting it more and more on the subtle aspects. So the subtle feeling of the breath as you breathe in and out, and also the image of the breath in the mind. So we utilize the physical aspect of the breath, and then we can utilize the feeling that we're experiencing mentally to go deeper and deeper into the mind. Remember the example that I'm sure many people use this example, but I use it quite often, and that is the ocean. You think about the ocean. On the surface of the ocean, due to the many currents in the world and the tides and, the pull for gravitation pull, moons involved in that, but also the winds and so forth, the ocean on the surface can become very, very rough, very dangerous, and almost like a washing machine. And this is kind of like the mind when it's really distracted and worried and so forth. But the deeper you go into the ocean, the less disturbed the water is. So that's the same with the mind. And the deeper and deeper and deeper you go, apparently at the depths of the ocean or the oceans, it's very still, very tranquil, very silent. And so that our mind is like this. Who doesn't want to be tranquil and peaceful? I think I asked that question last week. Who doesn't want to be peaceful? I have a slight feeling that we all are looking for peace. Even those people that I've heard some people in like involved in worldly activities say that, oh, I don't want to be peaceful, it's boring. I don't get to be excited. But actually, I think they are also looking for peace. Just don't know how to do it, don't know what it is. And so that's that one finished. The next page is the fifth one now is disciplining. This is knowing the good qualities of meditative stabilization and taking joy in them. Now, normally when we talk about discipline, we are talking about like morality, ethical conduct, and so forth. And yes, disciplining is that. But we should, to be able to discipline our mind to continually and consistently engage in meditation practice, we have to see the good in it. We have to experience the joy in it. We have to know the good qualities of mental stabilization. Just like using that example again of the ocean, the deeper you go in there, if you actually experience the mind your mind to be more calm and more relaxed, more bright, more flexible, then this is a nice feeling. Utilize this feeling. Don't attach to it as such, but utilize it to see the good qualities in it. From these good qualities, from the calm, really concentrated mind, arise all of the other good qualities too. You have easier access to love and kindness and compassion, which are the relative antidotes for anger and hatred, conflict, and so forth. You have easier access to whatever limited wisdom we have right now, to utilize that limited wisdom, to be able to penetrate beyond it until we can realize the true wisdom, the supreme wisdom. But we need to know the good qualities in this practice initially to be able to do that and discipline our minds in them. Discipline, you can almost say as well, use the word again, absorb the mind with them. So that is the fifth state of concentration. The sixth state of concentration is pacifying. This is ceasing dislike for meditation or meditative stabilization. Even experienced practitioners may go through times where you don't feel like doing it, or you may even have such a subtle dislike for it. Oh no, I've got to do that again. I've got to look inside my mind again. Maybe sometimes we don't like what we see inside our minds. I think a lot of people who avoid meditation practice, even those ones that have the opportunity to practice meditation, they don't like looking in their mind. They don't like to see the faults. They don't like to know that they're not concentrated. Maybe even some practitioners that have been Buddhist practitioners a long time maybe some still experience some sort of jealousy comparing themselves with other practitioners. This is really important not to do this. We should see all of the other practitioners as our brothers and sisters on the path to help us. I used to experience jealousies, especially in the 90s. You know, somebody was getting the attention of my teachers more than me. I used to feel this jealousy inside me. And I never let it out, never showed it to anyone. But, you know, I recognized it. I'm very pleased that I was able to recognize this as a negative quality that I needed to get rid of. You know, I wanted my teacher's attention. And then I started to realize, actually, the more my teacher has to pay me attention means the more training that I need. And so when they, you know, I remind you, there's like 5 really close teachers I've had in my life. One still alive and 4 passed away already. But actually, when they didn't pay me much attention, was meaning that they were actually happy with me and happy with the practice. And so that was one of the ways that I come to terms with having this, like an envy, like a jealousy type of thing. And it's sometimes with our teachers, the more that we can know that if they are not worrying about correcting you all the time, it means that it's not that they're neglecting you, they're actually realizing that your practice is strong, it's good, and so forth like that. So sometimes, get back, I digress slightly, but get back to this, the ceasing of the dislike for meditative stabilization. You can use your hands. Don't turn your mics on because we have the trouble with the quality of sound on the internet. But if you, sometimes, you can be honest to yourself now, if you put off meditation practice sometimes, who does that? And the reason probably is there's this little subtle dislike for the actual practice. And maybe I'll say something that I mentioned quite a while ago in a class, that this can also be known as active laziness, when we decide to do something else. You know, you think, oh, I've got to, even studying the Dharma, if it's meditation time, do meditation, don't pick up a book. You know, you need to, at that time for meditation, put everything aside and do meditation. I love reading the Dharma books. I'm up late at night reading the Dharma books a lot. And also I'm writing as well, doing a lot of writing of the teachings, my own sort of take on that. But when it comes time for meditation, I really make myself do it. Sometimes I have to put the writing down. I have to do, these days on the computer, it used to be pen and paper, but these days on the computer, I have to press something on the left-hand side of the computer. I can't remember what it's called now, and then save as, so I don't lose what I'm writing. And I do that so that I don't cut into my meditation practice. So really, I encourage you to, when it's time to do the meditation, do the meditation. Don't worry about anything else. It doesn't matter. Everything else can be picked up later. So yeah, so I think all of us, I'm not excluded from this. Sometimes we have this very subtle sort of dislike for meditation practice or meditative stabilization, because we don't have it yet as well. We don't have the really stabilized mind yet. And so this may irritate us as well, not knowing or knowing that we actually don't have or are not as good at the practice as we would like to be. Okay, maybe that's a better way of putting it. Number 7 is thorough pacifying. This is through effort, relinquishing even subtle lethargy and excitement just after they arise. Remember the word lethargy, we can also use, as in instructions for meditation, I use often, is the dull mind. You know, it's lethargic mind, heavy mind, sleepy mind, slothful. And then excitement is the mind when it's following thoughts, telling ourselves stories, getting agitated, getting worried, being attached to this, trying to push that away. The mind's very busy all the time. This is like the excitement the Buddha spoke about. And so this is through effort. Now, the effort at this stage is quite natural, okay? It's not as if we're trying too much. And so we relinquish even the subtle aspects of this lethargy and excitement just after they arise. So soon as you recognize that your mind's moving towards excitement or becoming a little dull, you recognize straight away. And then through the effort, you're focusing back on the object. Remember, this is quite advanced practice to this state, okay? The number 8 is making one-pointed concentration. This is generating mental stabilization continuously. Wouldn't that be nice? It's impossible now for the non-conducive states of mind to interrupt the process. So when we're at this state of concentration, there is no interruption. You're still making the effort to meditate. There's still this subtle effort, but you don't have the interruptions. You don't have the interruptions of thoughts and so forth. The 9th state is putting in equipoise. And this is spontaneously fixing on an object. No effort, not having to rely upon mindfulness or awareness or conscientiousness. This is one-pointed concentration, basically. And so you're not even having to make a subtle effort at this stage. So I will repeat these, okay? Setting the mind, that is collecting the mind and placing it on an object. Continually setting, this is now prolonging concentration on an object, much more than the previous state. The 3rd one is resetting. This is when we immediately recognize distraction and return to the object. The increased setting, this is collecting the mind from concentrating on the gross aspects and placing them on the more subtle aspects of the object of meditation. Then the 5th one is disciplining. This is disciplining the mind in the good qualities of the mental stabilization and taking joy in them and having enthusiasm for them. And then there is pacifying, and this is ceasing dislike for meditative stabilization, thorough pacifying. This is now through a little bit of effort, we are relinquishing even the subtle aspects of lethargy and excitement, and just after they arise. And the 8th state is making one-pointed, generating mental stabilization continuously. Now it's impossible for us to be interrupted by non-conducive mental states. And then the 9th state is putting in equipoise, also known as one-pointed concentration. And this is spontaneously fixing on an object with no effort and not even having to rely upon mindfulness, awareness, and conscientiousness. So I hope this has been reasonably clear. Have a look again at the video and just to restudy, and try not to be bored with it. Try to realize that every time we listen to the Dharma, whether it's from Dharma teachers or great masters, or whether we're reading the Dharma, recorded in the suttas and so forth from the words of the Buddha, remember that familiarity and repetitiveness is very helpful for us. And as soon as we know something fully, directly, we don't have to think about it, apart from sharing it with others, of course. But when we only know inferentially and even indirectly, it's really important for us to become more and more and more familiar with it. And also that means we have to read it over and over, or hear it over and over. And us human beings, especially in the modern world, where we have what I nickname and joke around and call the McDonald's mentality. In other words, you want your hamburger now. Of course, I don't have hamburgers, I'm vegetarian, but when you go into those fast food places, they give you the food in 1 minute. It's not very good for you. Actually, if you want to have some good food, you need to take the time and effort, fresh produce, and make good effort to put good ingredients together, and then you have a healthy meal. But sometimes in this modern world, we have this, what I call the McDonald's syndrome. We want things now. We don't want to put in the effort. We don't want it to take time. But it does take time. Many, many lifetimes we have been distracted. Now we're undoing this habit. Undoing. Sometimes we can move forward quickly, sometimes slowly. Just be patient with yourself. And remember that patience is a very important aspect of the Dharma practice. It's in the Paramitas. Actually, patience is everywhere. Patience is, the antidote for us being sort of worried and stressed and even angry and frustrated. We need to be more patient with ourselves. We need to be more patient if we're not getting what we want, if we're experiencing difficulties. We need to be more patient with not understanding the Dharma on a deeper level yet. In other words, patient with the nature of reality, because we don't understand it yet. Okay, so I think that's enough for now. I think it's 1 hour class. So are you happy, or do you want me to talk a little longer? Yeah? Okay, another few minutes. Okay, so so patience, maybe I mentioned that, maybe patience, as in the Mahayana tradition is known, we have the same as Theravada tradition as 10 paramitas, or 10 transcendental perfections, but they're in a different order and they're mentioned differently, but they're the same. Remember, words, the Dharma is not the words, ultimately. We can use the words. The Dharma written in the scriptures, the recorded discourses of the Buddha and his main disciples, such as Sariputra and so forth, we have all of these in words, but the words themselves are not the truth. The words are pointing to the truth, and so sometimes between the different traditions, there may be differences on the surface in the words or the type of language being used. And like some of the Mahayana scriptures use quite different language to the Theravada canon, but the same meaning, because the truth is the truth, right? So anyway, I won't harp on about that. So the 6 paramitas that we actually mention in one of the verses that we chant 3 times, they start with morality, sila, and when we practice morality, this helps our mind to be kind of more conducive for the other practices as well. I should say the first one is generosity. I apologize. So generosity is the direct antidote, you could say, relative antidote for greed and for attachment. So the more that we practice dana, or generosity, the more the mind is conducive for sila, or morality. The less we attach to something and the less greedy and self-centered we are, then the less likely we're going to do anything wrong. Don't you think? Because we do things wrong when we want something, or we don't want something. So the more the mind is generous and open, the less attached it is, the less greedy it is. And then the more conducive it is for us to be moral, to practice sila. Sila then leads to chanting, which is patience. When we don't feel guilty about things, when we don't have negative regret about doing wrong things or thinking wrong things or saying wrong things, then the mind is able to deal more with whatever difficulties arise. So the 3 types, I'll go back to generosity. The 3 types of generosity is the generosity in giving material aid to those who need it. This also means, giving to the monastic sangha, for instance, giving the meals in the places in the world where this the giving of alms and meals and the requisites are practiced. Then you do this. This is like giving material aid. Then also the giving of the protection from fear, which also includes forgiveness. So those people that are fearful, you help them to be not fearful. You protect them from that. Then you have the generosity of giving the Dharma. Now, giving the Dharma can strictly mean giving Dharma talks, sharing the Dharma with people, whether it's formally or informally, but also can mean helping people. If you're really good at mathematics, for instance, and somebody's not, you can help them do that, because this is helpful in their life. If they have no idea how to grow a vegetable, or prepare a vegetable patch to grow vegetables, and you have good knowledge of this, you can share this with them. This is like giving the truth, giving the Dharma as well. Then, of course, the morality, or the sila, means to abstain from doing anything harmful with your body, with your speech, and with your mind. I won't go into the aspects of that, because we spoke about it already. Then patience, we be patient when we're being harmed, whether we're being harmed physically, mentally, economically, environmentally. Then we be patient. It doesn't mean that we put up with it, but it means we try our best not to let it disturb our minds. Some people in the past have asked me in Dharma classes, oh, but that's not right. If somebody's hurting you, you shouldn't be patient with it. Yes, you should be patient with it. Patience is a strong, flexible state of mind. But that doesn't mean that you put up with it. You don't stay there and keep experiencing it. You move on from it. And protect yourself. And so then, of course, we have the patience when we're experiencing obstacles and difficulties on the Dharma path, especially on the Dharma path. And like I mentioned, we be patient with the nature of reality, because we don't understand it yet. And that really is being patient with ourselves, isn't it? And not picking on ourselves all the time, getting down on ourselves. And then, of course, this leads to the great efforts, which we spoke about before, we won't go into now, the enthusiastic perseverance. The fifth of these paramitas out of 6 is concentration. This is working our way towards what we just spoke about, developing the one point of concentration and experiencing and realizing samadhi. Okay, then we have this, from the samadhi, the mind becomes really, really clear. And so then we're able to discern things more clearly, realize what is truthful, what is not truthful, realize what is right, what is wrong, and so forth. And this leads, or unveils, you could say, the supreme wisdom, prajna. Okay, so that's the 6 paramitas we do the chanting on. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I know that some of you write to me in Messenger, through the Facebook, and also through other means. And so please, I invite you. Ashin, continue to do so. Naresh, the same. Hanika, the same. And also Australian students. Please, you got questions, ask me. It's easier for you because you can just give me a call. And I'm very happy to answer, just to, on occasions, be patient with me getting back to you if I'm busy. So I'm glad we had another longer class. I hope it doesn't make you too hungry in Melbourne and Sydney, because it's dinner time. And yeah, I myself probably go for a walk now. Okay, so take care and practice the Dharma well. And be happy. Be happy with yourself. Really. You're wonderful.